but that's okay. The question was if we could deal with the Kinsman Ball Diamond earlier in the agenda, as we have a member from the public who's here with that group. We don't necessarily,
Put it under delegates.
okay, so we'll put that after our NCO then, so the baseball diamonds will come up following the RCMP Strathmore detachment. So, okay, if you wouldn't mind coming forward and presenting to us, welcome.
Thank you very much. I sent out the statistics in advance, and the reason why there's so many pages, I have to explain first, is if you look in the upper, I also sent 2017 for comparative purposes, and if you look on the upper left-hand corner, you see where it says K Southern Alberta TSM. And if you look a little farther back in there, there's K Southern Alberta STR, K Calgary Urban Strathmore STR. They've changed the three-letter code for it, and on the Calgary Urban STR, there's 6,000 entities in there that have to purge before we can actually get rid of that, so it'll all be on one page. And it's too labor-intensive to go through. And
Same as doing marks for school. Same.
So, as you can see, there's just been a slight increase in the number of calls from 2017 to 2018. And I guess before I go forward, does anybody have any questions on what the actual categories are that are on there? Some of them are actually confusing. There's a couple new ones that are going to be coming forward on the 2018 one, under the violation group traffic offenses, impaired operation related offenses. There's two that appear now are impaired operation by drug of a motor vehicle, impaired care and control by a drug of a motor vehicle. So what's happening now in the province with the marijuana laws supposedly coming forward in the summer, there's a big push to train drug recognition experts, as well as field sobriety testers that can do physical tests to form their grounds that the person is impaired by drug or alcohol. I'm sorry, it's on page 2 of the 2018 one. And so there's probably going to be an increase, and then we have 2 field sobriety testers in detachment and 1 drug recognition expert who actually just completed his training, but he hasn't received the designation from the province because he had to go get his training down in the first part in Edmonton, and the practical part was in Florida at essentially a prison. Their drug, when they brought people in, they ran them through the tests. So by the time that gets compiled in the States and then forwarded back to Alberta, that's when he'll get his designation. So he's just doing some field testing right now, and so hopefully that, I guess now that he has the training, hopefully there's more. Yeah, all sorts of new things showed up in the office, yellow tape on the floor to walk on the line, so. And so the province is looking to have, at the end of the 2018 fiscal year, of the total membership in the division, to have 33% of them trained as drug recognition or field sobriety testers, which is good. But for the most part, all the statistics remain pretty close to what they were in 2017. Thankfully, there's been a reduction in the sexual offenses part. I mean, the number's only -4, but it's essentially 50% less than it was the year before. But having said that, crimes against people has gone up. And this includes uttering threats, and it gets reported to us as uttering threats, but when you find out it's social media stuff. It's not really uttering threats to some people making probably statements they shouldn't make, but they feel that it was directed at them when in fact doesn't meet the elements of the offense for uttering threats. Theft under, there's been a slight increase. Possession of property obtained by crime, that's gone up by 10, but it's probably going to continue to trend up because we're catching more people with stolen vehicles. We're also charging them as well for that. And they're actually registering convictions on both of them now. Theft of cars for this quarter has gone up by 5. Fraud has gone up. And the break-in to, well, all kinds of break-ins, resident, business and stuff has gone down. Hopefully that continues. And the common police activities has gone up. That's just assistance to general public. Essentially, files that require little or almost no investigation at all. That's that part for statistics. If anybody has any questions?
Deputy Mayor Sobel?
I do. Hi, Dennis. Thank you for that. A couple of observations and maybe a question or two. In page 8 of the 2018, 17 stats rather, under false alarms, I noticed that they're up considerably. They're up from 53 to 53 and 17 to. I'm sorry, and I was talking about the first quarter of 2018, but they're up from 53 to 73, so up 20. Are these private residence alarms or
business
store?
alarms,
Business alarms,
panic
mostly?
alarms, yeah.
I thought there was some action being taken to try to lessen the amount of alarms you guys are going to. Is that an issue that you're dealing with?
Well, I think it's been somewhat addressed, but the way around it is they're now switching to panic alarms.
Okay. Oh,
And
okay.
you can't not go to those.
Right.
So even if there's a theft from a business and the employee feels they were threatened, they hit the panic alarm, so we have to go racing over to that.
That's a lot of alarms in 3 months.
Yeah.
Into page 7 of your 2018 report, one item in regards to crimes against property is a little bit concerning and certainly up from 17, and that is theft of trucks. And once again, I don't think that comes to a surprise to anybody. There's been lots of advertising in regards to trucks being stolen in town, and they are certainly up, and it's probably understandable. Is attachment on any action plan in regards to theft of trucks, other than telling everybody to take their keys out of their vehicles?
No, we've, I mean, it's common knowledge the police have bait vehicles,
Right.
and we found typically it's a Ford 350 that's stolen, so we put one out as a bait vehicle. Nobody came close to it. And it's almost like a new, but we got it from the northern part of the province and brought it up here,
Yeah.
and nobody touched it. And strangely enough, during that period, it was checked by other police agencies, just happened to be driving by and seen it. We moved it to a couple different places,
Okay.
and nobody bid on it. So,
Keep trying.
no, and definitely we will.
Over on page 4 of that 2018 report, and their victim services, both accepted and declined. I noticed there's 64 files that were generated in the first 3 months, and I guess this is just a comment. I'm amazed at that number. Your victim services unit, from what I can see, is hopping. They're just busier than heck, and it's a sad comment to make that they're that busy. So I guess I just want to ask you to offer them my gratitude and hopefully that of council for the work they do. I think it's important work.
I'd just like to add to that, that I sit on the board for the Victim Services Unit, and quite often, a lot of the members don't know the whole wide range of services Victim Services offers.
Right.
And so, speaking with the program director, I thought, you know what, because they're kind of selecting what things have to be referred to Victim Services. Well, that came forward and says, you know what, everything gets referred to them. They'll do a proactive call them. An example would be somebody has their truck stolen, and their wallet was in it. They can call them, they can help them through victims of crime compensation, they can help them with what agencies to notify if somebody tries to create identity with their identification. And if they decide, no, I don't want nothing to do with it, what we're gonna do is put together a package with how to deal with identity theft and stuff like that, and send it off to them, and they can look at it if they want. But at least we're doing it.
Right on. Amazing.
For the last little bit, I've been, I don't know,
I'm sorry, I just had one more.
yep,
And I, probably the most controversial one, and that's in regards to our friend traffic statistics. And the reason I bring this up mostly is because I've been a strong advocate of the enhanced traffic enforcement program, which still is in effect, and I don't want to lose that. But I also recall that one of the conditions that we had when we went into that program a few years, I don't even remember when that was, but it was at least 3 years ago. We asked the detachment to ensure that all traffic enforcement was not going to be just left to the traffic enforcement agency, that the detachment would still have to continue doing their work. We anticipated a rise in statistics, and that's not what I'm seeing in the stats over the last year. And I'm just a little bit concerned. This year, this first quarter, for instance, there's 206 tickets written, which would, if I put that over the year, that's somewhere in the vicinity of 825, which is, I mean, which would be the worst year ever. And I'm not pushing for everybody to get ticket hungry, but I just want to be assured, I guess, that the detachment understands that they're also, everybody there is responsible for slowing down our vehicles and enforcing our traffic laws in our community. And it's not just the enhanced traffic section.
yes, and I agree with you, the enhanced traffic shifts are good, and I've actually looked into there's 5 identified hotspots,
Yes.
and one of them is Highway 1 as it runs through town, and just last week or 2 weeks ago, I sent an email that I want to restrict people going on number 1 and writing tickets and spend more time in the town itself. But I'm also in the process of instituting a predetermined number of tickets. No, it's not only that you get the ticket, you actually talk to people as well.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a bigger byproduct than giving somebody a ticket for whatever the offense may be. And then I think because the spin-off of talking to people, you actually get to see them somewhere else. And I mean, you don't have, everybody you stop, you don't have to give a ticket to. People have unusual circumstances as to why they're doing what they're doing.
Sure.
But I'm in the process of addressing that for the whole detachment. And because I recognize that the enhanced shifts are not to so you won't have to write any tickets. No, you still have to get out and do it. And the idea is if you don't do that, then you will lose the enhanced traffic shifts and you will be doing it anyway. So,
I'll leave that in your capable hands, sir. Thanks very much, Dennis.
thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sobel. Any other questions at this time?
Just profound thanks. Really good report, really.
Could I throw 2 more things out at you? It just came out in well, quickly, the priorities for it's actually similar between Rocky View, Wheatland, and the town of Strathmore. The top 4 all identical. Just 3 and 4 just turned around, or flipped. So it's a common problem throughout the detachment area. There's, oh, and just, because there's no way to capture it anymore. For the first quarter of this year, we've done 510 criminal record checks and taken fingerprints for 90 civilians to verify their criminal records or if they need them for adoption or whatever. So I just wanted to mention that. But there's this new, it's called the Public Face Crime Mapping Project. And I know it's hard to describe, so I printed a map if you want to have a look at it. I just give it to you. And what it is if the town would add a map to their website, and there'll be, the information can be passed on to whoever runs the website. Put this map on, and every day we'll go onto the map. And if you look at the one I'm passing out, it just gives a snapshot on the things that's happened in the last little bit. Like it'd show you where the break and enters are by the asterisks, where the mischief occurred, where the theft of motor vehicles, where the actual motor vehicle theft occurred.
That would be such a
And-
tool to help citizens of the soul if it gets going.
So what would happen is it would be the town would host the map and would do the data input on it. And you can also use it to, if you're closing down a road for whatever reason, we could add that on there. Say if we have something going on by the school, and we close that road. We would. But in the next day or two, I will drop off a letter for the town, for the mayor and council to review it if they're interested in doing it, where the information would come from and how it would work. And this map is actually from, I believe, St. Albert, where they've been using it. So I think, and so if the public goes onto the town website, they'll be able to see where things are happening. And
That would be very helpful.
so,
Does that come under your department?
Yes, yes, Council.
so should I direct the letter to you or to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Sergeant is going to bring a package forward and then next group will bring it. It's really going to be very favorable.
And the only other thing that I want to mention was, no, that's good. I'm good.
Thank you for your report, Deputy Mayor Sobel.
Just one last thing, Dennis, I know there's a third watch clerk coming your way, courtesy of our friends at Wheatland County who have decided to invest in a third watch clerk. And I've heard rumors and innuendos about how positive this is, but I wonder if you could just maybe comment if you feel that this is a system that's helping out and doing what we hoped it would do.
I feel like I'm in court. I wasn't going to bring it up, but now that you brought it up, let's talk about it. Actually, over the last little bit, I've been corresponding with Trent, and I met with James and Trent, and they wanted the duties reduced to numbers, which the RCMP has a thing called General Duty Task Bank for a constable. So it lists out their 12 outputs, their 12 main outputs, and they assign percentages to them. So I took the top 4, which comprise 60% of their day, and I broke it down to numbers and how much of the duties that the watch clerk does for them, times it by 4 people on a watch, and come up with a number. And the numbers, they're based on, the formula was, or the outputs and the percentages were determined in 2010. And for an example, like court has changed so much from 2010 until now that although that's still a high number, in reality it's probably higher. And so at the end of the day, I think the number was around 1 watch clerk. So I used the theory that they'd have 4 watch clerks and one would stay with the watch for the full 12-hour shift. You would actually gain one person, just over 12.03 hours a day.
I'd be really
So-
interested in seeing those, only because it's such good information for our public.
Yeah.
Because what it equates to is that presence in community. That's so desirable. I think that's wonderful.
And so I've sent all the information to Trent, and now it's Trent's game. Anything else?
Thank you for your presentation, and it was really interesting to hear about the watch clerk success as well as this map that you've presented. I think it's going to be really good for our community. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And the next item we're treating as a delegation because we do have someone here from Strathmore Minor Baseball, and we'll talk about the Kinsman Park Ball Diamond. Mustafa, you're coming forward?
You can have mine.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just wait for that to come. So I'll be presenting the presentation today for Kinsman Park Ball Diamonds. In our agenda today, we'll go through the existing ball diamonds itself, Strathmore minor balls wish list, some concept plans, admin's recommendation, funding sources, and then we'll go to questions and comments at the end. So early in 2018, Council directed administration to look at the Kinsman Ball Park diamonds in regards to having a AA team come down to Strathmore and making it and them utilizing that ball diamond and having their standards met, as well as to communicate with minor ball and see how they utilize the ball diamonds and the functionality of it, as well as to install lights and water source. Discussions with minor ball, they gave us a punch list, basically their wish list of items that they would like to see at the ball diamonds itself, and they would be basically access to water, electrical, lights, the dugouts renovated, as well as resurfacing the outfield, new bleachers, and batting cages. The first concept in front of you is basically the existing ball diamond itself, but renovated. The biggest changes you will see is the fence moved back, new bleachers, as well as more trees. The foul line post will be aligned. Again, you'll see lighting as well in there. Water source for the ball diamond itself. And then option 2 over here, or second concept, was basically more for the AA team, and that was to be facing the northwest direction because that is a standard within their league. The biggest issue we had with this concept is it encroached into the service road and it got rid of half of our parking lot, and as well as other properties it encroached on. And then our third concept, basically modifying it to make it fit within the property. But again, the biggest issue there was we would lose a majority of our parking again.
Mustafa, do you want us to ask questions as we go? Because I'm sure you can answer.
Sure, of course.
Go ahead. So one of the things
Oh,
that.
could we get you to hit your mic?
I'm sorry.
Thanks. Councillor Peterson?
One of the things that we had talked about before was situating the backstop area in the northwest corner.
So just rotate it.
So it would face southeast. The diamond would face southeast.
Go a quarter back,
So it-
basically. Right.
So where the gate is on the northwest side of the parking lot, that's where the
Oh, okay, you
backstop
want-
would be.
Okay, fair enough. The concept 2 itself and 3 was more in regards to the AA team
Yes,
and their standards, and that's the direction they would need it for it to meet their standards. Just in regards to the light hitting
Yeah.
Oh,
the
it
place.
has to face a certain direction.
Yeah.
Exactly.
all
That's
right,
what.
done, gotcha.
Sorry, that's why concept 2 and 3 are faced that direction itself. Okay, so administration's recommendation was to proceed with concept 1, just because it was more financially feasible. economical, just in regards to utilizing the space. As well, it captured all of minor baseball's wish list. Least impact to the existing field, and it's a shorter construction period. So we have two different scenarios when it comes to funding. So scenario A is the ideal scenario itself. We would be looking to get a grant, which would roughly be for $125,000, which we will be applying. It wouldn't be a grant that the town could apply themselves. It would have to be Baseball Alberta. Not Baseball Alberta, the Strathmore Minor Ball. So we have had conversations with Strathmore Minor Ball, and in regards to the grant. So $125,000. Yes. So what we will be doing is getting our grant writer to fill out the application, get all the requirements for the grant, and we would just get a member of Strathmore Minor Ball to sign off on the grant, and we would submit it on behalf of them. And then as well, a certain amount would be from Strathmore Minor Ball, and the town will have to put another portion of it. In case we do not get the grant, scenario B would be a portion of it comes from Strathmore Minor Ball, and a portion comes from the town, and we would use our outdoor recreational facility improvement line items that we have in the budget to pay for that. And if you guys have any questions.
Thank you, Mustafa. Councillor Corbeil?
How long would it take for the grant? Like, how long would we?
So for the grant itself, the deadline is the 15th. So we are on a time crunch to submit the
May
grant
15th?
itself. Yes, May 15th.
Oh my gosh.
So we are working as hard as we can to get that grant submitted.
And do you foresee you'll be able to have enough time to get it done?
Me and Mark P are working together to get that done on the 15th, as well as Lauren. So
And then I
Okay,
had a
thank you. Councillor Cox, Corbeil?
I do have my light on this time.
When would we start on some of this? Like, would it be done for some of this year's ball season, or?
we were looking at timeframes itself, just discussing internally. We are looking to get the grant this year, and then we have 18 months to complete the project.
So they wouldn't start till next.
So are we giving anything this year? That's what I'm asking.
We could possibly get it to this year,
Lighting.
depending on if we get the grant, when we get an answer from the grant, right?
Thank you. Councillor Corbeil, anything else?
No, thank you.
Councillor Cox?
So, I know we've gone back to figure one, or concept one,
Yes.
and Strathmore Minor Ball is on board with this, even though it faces the wrong way for any future,
So that the direction was
like how old before,
that direction's just more for the AA teams, so the more competitive ones. So the concept itself has been presented to Strathmore Minor Ball, and they were pretty excited when they saw the concept itself.
but doesn't Strathmore Minor Ball have AA teams?
I will direct that. We can get Strathmore Minor Ball to answer that, and 'cause I do not know the answer to that one itself.
Mr. Jansen?
Yes.
Thank you, Trevor. That way the public can hear. You look good. This way the public can hear what you're saying too,
Okay,
so.
right now we have two Bantam AA teams, one midget AA team, and for the first time ever, we have, Baseball Alberta has got a CNBL league out of the city. It's 13 teams, ranging, from Strathmore as far east to Canmore as far west. And it's their first time doing that, so we actually have 4 teams in that age group that use that facility. So they share practices. So there's practices there every night during the week, as well as in Cheadle every night during the week. So
Okay, so, but when he spoke, concept 2 and concept 3 face a different direction because
Yeah.
of, but this one won't.
I don't
So does
foresee
this-
there being a problem. We've played ball. I played ball on that diamond, facing the same way when I was young. It's not as big an issue. In the evening, it's a bigger issue for the guy batting than it is for the fielders, which, it is what it is. There's nothing ideal.
So it doesn't break any rules, you'll still be able to
Nope,
use it?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't break any rules now.
If I could add to Councillor Cox, would you be able to, with that orientation you have, will you still be able to host
Yeah.
Westerns there?
Yeah.
Like it is in
Yeah, I
this
gotta call
concept
into-
1?
We met yesterday. I got a call into Baseball Alberta in regards to moving the backstop back. Baseball Alberta has minimum requirements. that it's gotta be, home plate's gotta be, the backstop's gotta be set back 60 feet. We've hosted Bantam provincials last year as well as midget provincials here the year before that. And it's never been a problem for a Baseball Alberta event. I'm trying to find clarification on a Westerns event to see if they're a little bit more stringent on the diamond size. It's not a minimum size, it's built, it's kind of an intermediate to what to Baseball Alberta specs. It still allows those kids to hit home runs, and it's not a
the main
monstrous field that doesn't allow the kids to hit home runs. But our first conversation was excellent. I come and I wanted a water spout to plug a radio in to practice, and then it turned into this, which is fantastic. It's long overdue, so whatever we can get, we'll try and help with, so.
Thank you. Councillor Cox, anything else?
I don't like your comment. Whatever we get, we get. We want to
No,
do it. We want to
yes.
do it right.
Yes.
So is this going to be right?
Yes.
This is everything that you want, and it's going to be done right.
Yeah, there's some minor tweaks we would like to see as minor ball. We just seen it yesterday, so we haven't had a board meeting to let other board members who have traveled a lot farther to see other ball diamonds. But yeah, if you've ever watched a ball game there, it's pretty fun on a Saturday afternoon watching balls. So.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that you're getting what you need
Oh yeah.
and that it's
Yeah.
done right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Deputy Mayor Sobel?
Thank you. Thanks, gentlemen. So, one question, sorry, Trevor, could you tell me the levels that are playing there again? I've
So
got
they're
midget
the,
and CM, it was the CMP you said?
CNBL League.
CNBL?
It's a new midget A league.
Okay.
Based in southern Alberta.
Yeah,
What's happened for years is kids that have played Little League out of the city once they get out of Bantam, there's nowhere for them to play. Baseball Alberta saw an opportunity, come up with this league, and we joined it.
great. And the other two were, is Bantam one?
Bantam AA Tier 1, and I'm not sure where the other one will end up, but 2 Bantam AA teams and 2 midget, 1 AA and 1 A, what you consider A.
Great, thank you. And I'm sorry, the map is gone here, and I forgot to, what I wanted to look at was whether there was any room for bleachers on this, or is there,
Right here. Is that what you mean?
There's just right at the back.
in the back there?
There's just one.
The spectators
Okay,
area.
thank you very much.
So right now, if you see on that map, where his new brown bleachers are on the back on the concrete pads, there's a little bleacher in front of that little gray spot. That's the only bleacher we have
Oh.
right now for spectators in Kinsman.
But it is a good, sorry, Your Worship. It is a good spectator area because of the slope of the hill.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful place.
Yeah, and that hill is awesome, and people sit in the trees
Yep.
and,
And the hill doesn't go away and stuff?
So we've been discussing that as well, to try to find a good median to work that out. They did mention the hill itself, so we might have to get rid of a bleacher, and then that way you still have that hill, and then you have, instead of, currently right now in this design there's 6 bleachers. So you'd be down to 4.
All right,
Well, because you have
That was,
yeah, that hill is pretty cool. It's, people enjoy it, and if you don't wanna sit on the hill or sit in the grass, you can go down the third base line and put your lawn chair down that way. You could move the bleachers down the third base line, stuff like that. Like I said, I just seen this last night.
Yeah.
We've seen it, so we've,
and that
Thank
that
you.
was more of a request from them as well, to remove that center bleacher so they can have that hill.
Thank you. Anything else, Deputy Mayor Sobel?
no, that's, I'm good, thank you very much.
Councillor Bauer?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to follow up with Councillor Cox's questioning and make sure that this is the layout that is most suitable for your ball league. And if I'm looking from home plate to the existing center field boundary, it's 353 feet. But I know that the sides are a lot less because it goes in. I heard rumblings before from another team that said that it wasn't big enough. Are you finding that it's big enough even for those older teams?
yeah.
Okay, it
Yeah,
is.
If you talk to the kid, there might be some parents that grumble, but if you talk to the kids, there's not a home run every game.
Okay,
While you play baseball, you gotta give those kids a chance. If you make the center field 400 feet, there's major league ballparks that aren't bigger than this. Right?
Okay, good to know. And then spectators, we have aluminum bleachers in this conceptual drawing for 420. That's adequate?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Good. Thank you, that's everything.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Councillor Cox.
Sorry, why? I want to make sure it's done right. I see there's a concession. So, and we are putting in lights, so for sure 100% it will have like plumbing, sink, electricity, like
So with
full-on concession?
So with regards to that, administration is looking to only spend $300,000 this year, or for this project as phase 1. So we will have to go through the list itself, and then with the Minor Ball Association and identify the key components that they want. Currently, what you see out here, it is above the $300,000 mark. So we will have to phase it out if we do decide to do everything on here.
Is that like including the grant?
Yes, including the grant, we're looking to spend $300,000. So what will happen is at a later date, we will bring a report to council with administration's recommendation on what we will be doing at 3rd Avenue. Oh, sorry, not 3rd Avenue, at Kinsman Park.
I don't know anything about Third Avenue.
I've been doing a lot of 3rd Avenue.
That would be really bad.
What we will be doing at Kinsman Park itself and identifying how we will utilize the money itself.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. My only comment or question is to Trevor. Is there any need for grass in your infield?
It's a huge maintenance issue, putting grass. I know they have it out in Cheadle, and I know they spend a lot of time maintaining it so you don't get the shale buildup on the grass, edging it, dirt works. They spend, those kids, after every practice, sweep it off. They cover the mounds, they cover the batter's blocks. It's a lot of work to put a grass infield.
So you're okay with the complete shale infield, your group?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other comments or questions from council? Thank you, Mustafa, and your staff for all the work you've done. And I really appreciate the fact that you've stayed in contact with Strathmore Minor Ball and really built a communication system back and forth with them. I want to thank our councillors too, because this council has really taken it upon themselves that we're going to try to do what we can for Minor Ball and improve that diamond. One of the things that came up was that it's part of Kinsman Park, so we've always wanted to look at the idea of improving it. So just from aesthetics point of view, but for Minor Ball, it should be a real help. And Trevor, I'm really glad I wandered over July 1st to watch that one ball game with you, because it opened up my eyes to a lot of what was needed out there.
Yeah.
So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. That's it. Now I can go back out in the rain. Thank you very much.
We can keep you longer if you want.
No, I got, my son's probably standing early.
Okay. All right, that brings us to the confirmation of minutes. Minutes of the April 11th, 2018 Committee of the Whole meeting. Councillor Montgomery.
I just noticed that there was, on one of the pages of the minutes, it just had I believe, an erroneous time. It said like 12:57 PM, I believe. And I don't think we went that late.
Page 15.
Yeah, page 15, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, near the bottom.
I was here. No one else was?
So what's the correct time then for that? Are we at 10:57? Is that what it was?
I don't,
37.
The other one says,
We can check for you through the video and correct that.
okay, thank you for that.
I would just, if you read there, that's us going into committee of the whole. So that maybe just not, shouldn't be there. That might be
Because we're already in committee of the whole. We've,
from a special.
well, but we had to come out to extend the meeting though, and then we had to go
Oh,
back in.
you're right, sorry. You're right.
That's okay.
Yep. No, sure.
So yeah, we'll just have to check it, I guess.
okay, thank you. So moving forward, as we approve these minutes, then we'll just add that as something that will have to be adjusted? Okay.
All right, so I'll move that we accept the minutes of the April Committee of the Whole meeting as it will be amended.
Thank you. You've all heard that motion? All in favor? Motion is carried, which brings us to a tabled item, 6.1, Council Strategic Priorities 2018 to 2021, which is on page 17 of your handout. And that is, Jen's not here, it's from administration. Yes. Just for the public's information, council did receive an updated package that deals with this council strategic priorities for the years 2018 to 2021. So council has been looking through them. We've seen these before as well. They've come back to us with a couple of things. James, did you or administration want to speak to anything on the strategic priorities?
Just that we thank you for
to be changed as per the cost of living review. In section 3.3, that deals with the 1/3 tax exemption. Councillor Peterson, did you find out the date for that?
I have looked, and I would defer to administration. Sorry, thank you. I did at one point see a suggestion that it was June the 1st of this year, but I have not found any confirmation as to when that happens.
I've heard it's the end of the year, and I heard the FCM is lobbying really hard against it.
So at this point, there's, one of the document that I looked at came shortly after the announcement by the federal government, and the suggested date in there was June the 1st of 2018, but I found nothing to confirm that.
And I guess just for anybody in the public who might be consuming this now or later, this just has to do with the fact that 1/3 of a councillor's salary is currently exempted from tax, I believe. And so that will be lost at some point within the next year, as the federal government will be rescinding that exemption. And then in section 5.5, it's modified to exclude per diems for any meetings or events included in the base salary. It excludes any per diems for political party or candidate events, fundraisers such as charity or political. It excludes per diems for promotion of a commercial interest such as a store opening, and it excludes per diems for non-business related town of Strathmore events such as parades, markets, openings, etc. It renames the conference travel and subsistence budget to the professional development budget. And then the addition of the creation of a professional development per diem budget, which will And what that says is a separate account of per diems will be allotted to each counselor for attending conferences, seminars, and training outside of the town of Strathmore. See Schedule C. This account may be drawn down by, quote, full-day increments only. And that's just for ease of tracking and accounting. And then under Section 7, Business Travel and Subsistence, renaming the Business Travel and Subsistence budget to the Business Travel budget, and then the creation of a travel per diem budget as well, which will be managed similarly to the per diem budget for professional development. And then Schedule A has been amended so that per diem rates are now changed to 2 hours or less is per instance is $100, 4 hours or less per instance is $200, and then more than 4 hours per day is a full day, which is $250. And then the professional development budget could be revised possibly. The business development budget, again, could be revised. And under Schedule B, under considerations, under the automobile transportation automobile, I noticed that it said any amount must not exceed lowest economical airfare to destination. I thought that it should include plus any costs related to travel once at destination, such as rental of a car, bus fare, taxis, etc. Just because, you know, it could wind up to be more if you don't account for that. And then and then I created a Schedule C, which is just the per diem professional development per diem budget, which could be whatever people think is necessary. And then the Schedule D is just the travel per diem budget, which again is similar to the previous one. And for discussion, I guess, this has to do with the mayoral remuneration review. So Mayor Fuel works very hard for this community and is incumbent on us to at least follow the practice of the town to pay people market rates for their position, and we should vote to give him a raise. There is a reasonable argument to be made that Mayor Fuel should be getting an immediate raise to at least a level comparable to other mayors of Alberta communities of a similar size. Another angle to consider is that Mayor Fuel will be losing his one-third tax exemption in late 2018, which will mean that his income will be relatively lower. Other communities have recognized this and will be adjusting council pay to reflect this new reality. And then I have listed a couple of options, and if you guys want, I can go through those. Okay. So option one would be in recognition that the mayor position has become essentially a full-time job and that it should be compensated as such. A 7.5% raise this year to partially, and this only partially accounts for the one-third exemption loss, followed by a 5% raise each year for the following 2 years on top of the cost of living increase that would be installed otherwise. And then there's some accounting there. And then, like, I thought of some pros and cons of that. So a pro is the mayor position is more fairly compensated based on the full-time workload and effort that Mayor Fuel is currently expending on the town's behalf. A con would be past mayors or successive mayors may not meet the level of effort and workload that Mayor Fuel has been putting forth during his term, and it possibly leaves a similar problem as a flat rate for council does, in that it only rewards doing the minimum while punishing extra efforts. Option two would be leaving the mayoral compensation at its current level, but with expanded access to council per diems and per diem budgets, which will directly reflect the efforts of Mayor Fuel. The mayor's base salary responsibilities may need to be adjusted so that it encompasses more accurately the basic responsibilities of the mayor position. A pro of that would be it increases the mayor's remuneration to the degree that the mayor puts forth additional effort on behalf of the town. And then I guess one that I just thought of as well would be a blend of those because, and I haven't done like the actual like numbers accounting totally, but with the one-third exemption loss, that probably should be made up as well as adding on option two. I should have probably put that in there, but so let's call option three accounting for the one-third exemption, and then the per diem budgets. Let's call it.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Are there any questions or comments from councillors? Councillor Cox?
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Montgomery, great work, a lot of work. It's very good. Question as to when you were wanting to implement on a go-forward basis or retroactive or as of July 1st?
So I would say that this is a good time to change it, as far as it can also go well with our account, or like our reporting that we will be putting kind of, I think that's the next council meeting, will be deciding on the like reporting aspect of this. So, you know, there's no reason why we couldn't basically do those together. I wouldn't want to do it retroactively. Part of me actually wants to do it retroactively for our deputy mayor, because I know he's been putting in a lot of, you know, extra time and effort, and, you know, and it's unfortunate, I guess, that it's, you know, coming partway through his term as deputy mayor, so.
So when you say based on accounting, that would be the end of March then? So April and May would be retroactive?
I'd be it's up to you guys. I'd be hesitant to suggest retroactive, but I think it's, you know, it's definitely worth changing going forward. I would hesitate to do it retroactively. But.
So then, if it would align with it would be July 1, is that right? Quarterly? When's the quarterly cuts off? March?
Well, like, I would say, like,
July?
you know, whenever we implement it, and then, you know, like, you know, like, let's say the month following whenever it's implemented, would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Deputy Mayor Sobel?
Thank you, Your Worship. So a couple of things. I'm assuming, and I don't know if it's correct or not, but I'm assuming that one of the reasons why this issue arose, one of the reasons was because there was an announcement that municipal councils would be losing the 1/3 income tax exemption, which brought us to our present salary as it stands. So it's very clear that nobody knows when that's going to take place. And I personally believe it's very important to find when that date is, and that if this is going to go forward, that this would coincide with the loss of that exemption whenever that takes place. If it may not take place, which would change my whole attitude towards some of this. So I think we have to personally feel that we have to find out if and when this is going to happen. And I certainly wouldn't support any of this coming through until the 1/3 income tax exemption is lost. It's an interesting discussion in regards to the mayoral remuneration review. We happen to have a mayor who's putting in pretty close to full-time hours, as is indicated, and I appreciate that. The question, I think, has to be answered is whether or not council and the mayor feel that our community that it's time for our community can consider having a full-time mayor. And there's a lot of different aspects to that, but one of them that's very important that I think we have to realize is that at present, it just so happens that as deputy mayor, it's very fortunate that I have time during the day to attend meetings. That's not going to be the case all the time for a deputy mayor. Majority of our council work days, and I would anticipate that future councils are going to be in the same boat until such time as we are 300,000 people and we have a full-time council. But in the present time, basically, if I had a full-time job and was unable to attend meetings, our mayor would be attending all these meetings, and there's more and more meetings and requirements for the mayor to attend. Just the Growth Management Board itself is adding another 3 meetings, at least another 3 meetings to the mayor's schedule. The our philosophy has been to embrace our neighbors, and this, you don't do that always on the phone. These are face-to-face meetings. The job needs a whole bunch of meetings, and right now, other than myself, because of my situation of being available during the day, most of that falls on the mayor. So I'm sure there's other, I haven't really given a whole lot of thought to other reasons why we should have a full-time mayor, except for the fact that, there's a lot of work to do in that position, and there's a lot of work, additional work that could be done in a full-time position. So I'm intrigued what the rest of council thinks in regards to a full-time mayor, and I'm actually very interested in finding out what the mayor thinks as well. And I'm sorry, I'll just finish up by saying that the increase in pay would I think would be dependent on having a full-time mayor.
Okay, and if I could, I guess, speak to that. So the one-third tax exemption loss is, I would say, it's important, but it's one of like it's a small factor, I believe, in this. What drove me to this over and above that, or even more than that, was just seeing that my fellow councillors, some of them I've seen have quite heavy workloads as councillors. And I've noticed that there are other councillors, and myself too at various times, I've noticed that I am not carrying quite as heavy a workload, or other councillors are not carrying quite as heavy a workload as some of the other councillors. And I think that should be reflected, the efforts should be reflected more accurately. I don't think it's fair to just kind of give everyone the same pay, even though some people are putting in far more effort. And then the other important point I felt was that, as you just kind of mentioned, some of us are working either full-time jobs or working jobs that that do take a lot of time. And in order to fulfill our council responsibilities, over and above the the council meetings that we are expected to go to, we do have to lose income, or we have to, there's other personal costs to us that could either be real money costs or just other costs to our time and our private life that we have to give up. And there's a lot of times where, we could be, let's say in a committee meeting, and they're looking for volunteers to, take on some new role or some subcommittee, and it's kind of tough to find volunteers to do that, and it would make it easier, let's say, if councillors knew that their time was being valued, and that they weren't basically just sacrificing themselves or their families in order to take on that responsibility. And then as well, like the differing workload throughout the year, there's times, and so the idea as well behind this is that the average councillor who does not do anything extra will not see a change in their pay, and that's kind of the idea behind this. And then the councillors who, at any given time, are putting in the extra effort, will see the kind of extra pay, let's say. And then the other aspect too is just the training. I believe it's very important in order for us to make the best decisions possible, that we are able to secure training for ourselves, and it's kind of let's say hollow to have a professional development budget if you are going to have to lose income to attend these trainings, or possibly it'll cost you some other way. Maybe if you have to hire somebody to look after your children so you can go to these, et cetera. So it's kind of pointless to have a budget that you can use to professionally develop yourself if you are unable to do so for monetary reasons. And I think the good thing about this, well, there's two good things. So one is that, like I said, per diems can be flexible so that you don't feel like you're obligated to take more than you feel you should. And I think that I'm comfortable with the public holding me accountable in the end for my responsible use of per diems. And I have no problem explaining to the public or anybody else why I may or may not take advantage of expanded per diems. But I also think that it's fine to be against changing the policy, but it should be backed up with principled action in the form of not taking advantage of the revisions by claiming expanded per diems if you do vote against it. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. One of the things I just want to add before I go to Councillor Peterson is I appreciate your selfless attitude here and that you're willing to look at improving the situation for councillors who may be heavier loaded as far as committees and meetings they attend. So I appreciate that as far as your approach to this. Councillor Peterson.
Thank you, Worship. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness that, I really commend you, Councillor Montgomery, for the work that you've put into this, and clearly you've never been a union steward. In terms of the remuneration for the mayor, reflecting Councillor Sobel's, almost called you Constable, comments, the complexity of the mayor's position in the 5 years that I've been on council has changed drastically in this community. Sometimes due to growth, but also due to those other impending factors like growth management and also the initiatives we've undertaken in the town. And it's created this need for an enduring connectivity and accessibility to the public. I haven't seen that before. I haven't witnessed it before, and not in all the years that my husband was involved on council or that I've been in the community. And with the explosion of activity. And I really commend this mayor and commend Councillor Montgomery for recognizing this additional effort. And one of the things that I'd really like to look at in line with what Councillor Montgomery put forward, we may not be at the point where we need a 5-day, 8-hour, or a 5-day a week, 8-hour a day mayor, but we certainly should be considering a 4-day. I think we should be looking at that. And as Councillor Sobel said, I'd like to hear, from the mayor, because very definitely this is a different kind of game. And in terms of changing the council perspective, my issue with it is that at the end of last term, in tradition with councils in previous terms, the policy dictates that they set that priority for the upcoming council. And it is for that reason, it is for that ethical consideration, as I've spoken to you before, that it causes me some concern that I made a very definitive commitment to the public prior to the election and was reelected on that basis again. So that's the main reason that I have difficulty going forward. But if this were to come forward as a result of the same kinds of complexities that we've noted here, and you were to, to bring that up, I have no problem with you bringing it forward, but I'd have to give a lot of thought before I considered it. But I also appreciate the fact that, as has always been, we don't have to accept per diems if it's not in our purview to do so. And one of the reasons that we brought in the per diems for certain days was because we recognized that exact thing that you identified. And having said that, I think that this council is the busiest that I've witnessed in a long time, just in general. And I'd like time for additional consideration. And I'll tell you one thing, if this were to have come up at the end of this term, Councillor Montgomery, other than the professional development process that you've indicated, I would accept it if it was in the last year of our tenure here. The other thing with regards to the professional development budget, I'd like more predictability for budget item than what we currently have. That would be my only concern, and I think that could be achieved by putting it to a maximum like we currently have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Cox and then Councillor Corbeil. I think Councillor Cox, have you spoken once?
I have.
Okay, so can we go to Councillor Corbeil and then we'll come back to you?
Nope, that's fine.
Thank you. Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, Jason, you did put a ton of work into this, and I can appreciate, and I actually, have been really deliberating a lot of these, and I would like to, I maybe would go forward with this, but I wouldn't be comfortable neither without knowing for sure about the 1/3 loss. And the only other thing that I had thought of also that hasn't been said already is because they have been talking about the mayor's roles, I think it would be a very good time to talk about the deputy mayor's roles as well. And maybe defining some of them a little bit better, sharing some responsibility.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. Good points. Councillor Bauer.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also wanted to just tag on to what Councillor Corbeil just said and say that I believe that Deputy Mayor Sobel has worked very hard since we brought in that the Deputy Mayor would actually have responsibilities on this council. And he has shown us, you've really led the way in showing us what we can do very well and become such a valuable resource on this council instead of just being in name only. And I think that I would like to see some compensation for that for our Deputy Mayor Sobel. And I also really like, Council Montgomery, how you put this together and the fact that per diems are a way of not rewarding, but of, what were you going to say? Capturing the costs that are associated with people that are going to put forward the effort that they can do. So some of us are in the position where we can attend meetings during the day, and some of us are in the position where we cannot. And being able to do that and not take away from our families, if that's the case, I think should definitely be something that we look at. And with the 1/3 exception, I did not actually know prior to this that was not a guarantee. So that information in itself has really made me look at this a little bit differently. And so I would like to just say that I'd prefer to hold off on some of these suggestions until we know exactly when that will be coming in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Mr. Thackeray, did you have something to add to that part of it?
Yes, if I may, I'm just looking at some information on taxation. We'll double check this, but it appears it's 2019 is the first year that it comes into effect.
In January?
And later tax years, but it does not come into effect this year. But it's based on a bill from the federal budget, so we will just make sure we got things sorted, but it looks like it's maybe 2019.
Thank you, Mr. Thackeray. Councillor Cox?
Okay, so I do have a few points that I would like to, I'm not really sure as to everyone going around this losing of 1/3 income tax exemption, because in essence, Councillor Montgomery's revising of the policy does not increase at all, unless you lose work or have to pay childcare. Those are the only financial gains from anyone on council, is if they actually are having to take a day and go to education conference, committee meetings, anything. So there is no actual increase in wages. Even if we were losing 1/3 or we never do lose 1/3, we aren't gaining any financial remuneration. The gist of revising the policy is more in the sense that we are a very, very diverse council. We all come from a very different background, and unlike previous councils, we have younger family members. We have full-time work people. We have people that work during the day but don't work at night, or vice versa. We are an extremely diverse council that has not come up before in the past. So my understanding is that the reason that per diems were put in place before was because people were having to take time off of work, and it's not part of the salary that we're offered. And I wholeheartedly agree with Council Montgomery in this shouldn't be a hardship to any of us. And having said that, I am very much in favor, but I would like to see allowances for the budgets so that we actually can have a maximum. We aren't going over the maximum, but again, we are accountable. Now, going to the mayor remuneration, can I ask a question as to the base salary that you get right now? Is it based on so many hours?
It's just double hours,
Double hours of,
double councils.
okay, oh, okay.
It's a bit
So
less
it-
than that.
Yeah.
It's a bit less? So it's not technically based on a certain amount of hours put in? Okay.
If I could add to
Yeah.
that, there are days when I'm here, like I try to get in around 9:30 or so, and I'm here till about 1 or 1:30. There are days where it's heavier because you might have lunch or breakfast meetings with different groups. At this time, I don't have anything to compare it to. I really don't know how the previous mayor did things as far as how much time he put in a typical day. There are also, and most of you counselors have been going to various things, there's many events in the evenings and weekends and things that you get called up to do that you don't necessarily do it in your regular day. And I appreciate the fact that we definitely do come from different and diverse backgrounds. It's just so hard for me to say how much time I put in because I'm trying different things too. Like when emails come, I try to answer them. If I know the answer, I try to direct things back to people as quickly as possible. So even when you're home, I get kidded that I'm not really off duty, that I'm always looking at the phone and trying to respond to things. So that's something to consider too. As far as the 1/3 salary that you were discussing, Councillor Cox, if that indeed comes true for the new year of 2019, I really don't want to see any of the councillors have a decrease in pay based on having 1/3 not be tax exempt anymore. So I would really like to entertain the idea that we make that up as soon as possible, because knowing you people and seeing how much time and effort you put in on your committees, and I know you come from different backgrounds and some aren't able to do some things during the day, but I would really hate to see any kind of a pay decrease based on that loss in the new year, because you people work very hard and I appreciate all that you do. If I could also deal with the deputy mayor part, one of the things that I've tried to do in this council and in this era of us being a group of people working together is elevating the position of deputy mayor and making it more important and making it more meaningful and being more actively involved in things as much as you possibly can. So I really like the idea, Councillor Montgomery, of rewarding or showing monetarily that's an extra thing that people are going to be doing when they're the deputy mayor. And so I would like to see something, and I would like, if we do have a slight increase for the person who's in the deputy mayor spot for that 8-month term, I would like to see something retroactive for the previous deputy mayor, as Councillor Bauer was saying. And I think we're becoming a big enough town that there are often so many events and things going on that the deputy mayor should be able to step in and could step in as much as possible. And as I've said, I try to include the deputy mayor position in any of the business meetings or daytime meetings or lunch meetings, anything that happens. If there's a chance to get the deputy mayor there, I really would like to do that, and I want that for all the councillors who come through and spend that time in that position. So it is a meaningful time when they're deputy mayor. The last thing, You know, it's difficult, and I know if there's public still watching, God bless you, if there's public watching, this sounds, you know, like we're discussing pay weight or pay increases for ourselves, but the problem is the current system of putting something in for the next council isn't always working either, because we're now at the 8-year mark with no councillor raise. And that's tough, because you run for re-election and you're worried that the fact that you might have voted a pay raise in for the next council is going to affect you as you run for council. It becomes a worrisome thing as you head into an election campaign. So I understand the idea of what we're trying to do here. We just want to make it as fair and equitable as we can. And those are the comments that I just wanted to weigh in on, and then deal with a couple of Councillor Cox's questions. As far as full-time mayor, I don't know. It's just that I try to spend a certain amount of time here during the day, and I try to be open and available for various things that come up during the day and or evenings and weekends. Councillor Cox.
So I'm just going to put a little bit of light on the situation after we discuss that. According to what we are paid for in the remuneration that Councillor Montgomery talked about, we get paid for approximately 15 hours a month. So therefore, the mayor would be close to 30 hours per month. And I think we can all agree that we put in an extremely large amount more than that.
And if I could speak.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
To clarify, to clarify, so, as far as the base salary goes, it includes our 2 regular council meetings, our 1 committee of the whole meeting, which normally should be approximately 3 hours each, plus up to 3 committee meetings, which are generally 2 hours each.
Okay.
So that comes to 15 hours. That's our base salary. That's what we get paid right now based on remuneration of a salary. And then my understanding was that the mayor's wage was close to double. You have more information? Perfect.
Mr. Thackeray, and then Councillor Montgomery will weigh in.
If I may, Council and Your Worship, AMSC has some very good data which speaks to many of the issues that you're talking about, and I'm wondering if you would like to refer this, say with yourselves, and maybe perhaps HR and Director of Corporate Services, there's some very general information, but you can, through AMSC, we can pull out, with a bit of resource, you could pull out a specified report, which will give you some really hard data in terms of comparing apples to apples for mayor, deputy mayor, councillors, to give you some actual current market information. And it would also it would answer, I think, a lot of the questions that you're talking about here, in terms of giving you some hard data, which that would give you the ability to say, we've got some independent third-party information, it's clean, it's collected ethically, and then you have something that you can stand behind. It's just a suggestion, if you wish, so if you're looking for assistance, if you don't, that's okay too.
Thank you, Mr. Thackeray. Councillor Montgomery?
Well, I just want to thank my fellow councillors for their comments. I think they're well-founded. If I could speak to a few of them, I guess. So one, Councillor Peterson, if I could speak to your point about, you promised constituents that you wouldn't be giving yourself a raise. And as Councillor Cox said, this is not to give ourselves a raise. Even if we don't lose the 1/3 tax exemption, the average councillor on the average month will not see $1 more. It's the months where a councillor will have, like maybe over and above the six meetings that we would already be obligated to attend, then you might see, you would see some sort of compensation for the additional time. And I don't believe there's anybody who's serious anyways about finding good people for this job that would ask us to put put in our time for no extra compensation. We wouldn't expect the town employees to come to extra meetings without extra compensation. And I don't believe that anybody who, as I said, wants good people in this position to also put in their time for free. And I just want to really hammer that point home that Councillor Cox made, and that is that we are not going to see any additional money for our, basically fulfilling our current obligations as councillors. There's no pay raise here. In fact, if the 1/3 pay exemption goes through, the average month, we will actually see less money than we would otherwise. And the per diems, the thing that's good about the per diems, rather than just voting ourselves a pay raise, which is what other communities have done, is that this will only compensate us for the additional work that we put in. And not a dime more, not, basically, we will not see any additional compensation without the additional effort. And as I said, I want it to be structured in a way where, if it wasn't before anyways, that people can only take as much as they feel comfortable. So that nobody's going to feel like, oh, I have to charge the max amount because, that's what everyone else is doing or whatever. We all answer to the people of Strathmore. And as I said, I'm comfortable, I guess, defending this for these reasons. And to the deputy mayor's point, I did it through my research, through you guys will see in the spreadsheet that I sent all of you guys, that deputy mayors in other communities are compensated extra. And this per diem policy change would actually compensate the deputy mayor without having to give them a special pay raise for a specific period of time that they happen to be deputy mayor. So it's, I can appreciate your guys' points. I don't think you should get kind of lost in the 1/3 tax exemption part, because that is only a small part of the argument. And this has more to do with just basically ensuring that our time over and above what we are expected to put in is being valued the way that it should be. And as I said, we wouldn't expect anybody else in this room to come in for free. And I don't believe that anybody would expect us to do the same. And then to the point of training, if we can go to a training seminar, that costs the people of Strathmore, like $500 to send us to, and we come back with information that saves us, $100,000 a year, who's going to complain about that? I don't think anybody is, and so that's why, like I said, I'm willing to defend this to the people that voted for me, and from the people I've talked to, they don't seem to see an issue with it either. So,
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Councillor Peterson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I know that in the month of March, I track my hours. I track them really carefully, and I just kind of do it for fun. And so there are months when I very few months when I make $10 an hour, and but most months I average $27.78 an hour. So that's not what I make in my regular job. But when I made the motion at the end of the last council year, it was what I felt was a fair compensation for the work that I did. So for 78 hours in the month of March of this year, it seemed to be a fair compensation. I agree with you that the mayor's not getting fairly compensated. And I really wish that per diems were the magic bullet, because if they were, I'd be with you. But I know from experience and working with many, many other councils and organizations, not just councils, but boards and governance boards who take per diems, that the reality is that it winds up costing constituents a lot more money. And I think that's proven out over the province. And it's proven out by our neighbors. And I think that, certainly not saying that the people that are getting that money don't deserve it, or that you don't deserve it. But it is not the magic bullet that we wish it was, or that I wish it was.
Councillor Montgomery?
So I guess so I if I could give you maybe an example or ask you, what would you to the councillor who has to take, several hours off of work to go to a committee meeting, maybe 3 days a month, or has to find somebody, to pay somebody to watch their children, and that comes out of, what they make as a counselor, what would you say to that person as far as,
In a less complex world, which we had fairly recently, that was the reason for bringing in the existing per diems. So I'm not against that. I certainly, Mayor Fuel and I are teachers, and Lorraine is a teacher. So when we, that was part of the reason, for whatever reason, there's always been a lot of teachers on councils or across the province. And so there was a small amount of per diem days put in, and we were compensated for them to pay back our sub fees. That was sort of the reasoning behind it. It would be the same reason for paying a babysitter or for that same compensatory factor, and I'm not against that. And if that had to be expanded, or it had to be acknowledged on a time basis or a commitment basis, committee basis, I think it's worth consideration. I have no problem with that.
well, and like something else that's worth considering as well is, in my research of other communities, I did note that our salary rate was, well, let's say our total compensation rate was less than other communities. Communities that had per diems were paying a similar or slightly lower salary, and communities that didn't have per diems were paying quite a bit higher salary. And even Okotoks, for instance, they had like childcare compensation they paid back. They had a number of other things that they covered on top of paying like a higher salary. And I wouldn't, say that we should be going the route of Okotoks, but just so that, the people of Strathmore are aware that this council is by no means, a high-paid council. And as I said, for, the reason of, it can cost a councillor, like, it can cost a councillor money to do this job, and it shouldn't. I had another point, but I can't seem to recall it right this second.
I'll
so.
add to it. I think that you make a great point, because if you set up a council perspective, then you prevent particularly young people, working professionals, from running for council. And I think that we should work towards inclusivity at every level. So it's a changing demographic, and I understand that.
Thank you, councillors. I'm wondering if council would feel, I'll come back to you just in 1 minute, Deputy Mayor Sobel. Sorry, I didn't see your light on.
Okay.
I'm wondering how council would feel about referring back to Mr. Thackeray's idea where what was the name of that again, Mr. Thackeray?
So AMS, Alberta Municipal Services Corp. I just asked, we participated in the past, and they collect a lot of data on all the things you've talked about and then some in terms of counselor situations. They benchmark the mayor, deputy mayor, counselors, salaries, per diems, benefits, time off, soup to nuts. Last time, like a year or so ago, they used Bannister Research. I'm not sure who they used recently, but I could find out.
Councillor Montgomery, would you feel comfortable if we kept your information and as well had Mr. Thackeray and administration look into the AMS to give us some help moving forward on this?
Yeah, the more information we can get, the better, I
This might
think.
help you shape some of the things you want to
Yep.
do, so.
Okay, and one of the things that I really feel we should keep on our radar is that potential 1/3 loss, and I would like us as a council to consider that as an immediate thing that would happen in January, that there would be no way that you people would have a pay decrease because of that 1/3 exemption being removed by the federal government. Deputy Mayor Sobel?
So this will be short because you've covered both points. So one was to take the CAO up on his offer. I think that's a good idea. And second of all, I don't want to diminish the idea of the 1/3 salary. I think it is very important. I think it's front and center, actually, because it involves a loss of wages. And I don't think any of us signed up to make less than what we were led to believe would be our salary when we started. So I really want to see where that plays out too. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Montgomery, did you want to wrap up?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll thank everyone for their time, but, and I guess, I just wanted to follow up on Councillor Peterson's point, and that is that, yeah, if the town of Strathmore wanted, or like the people of Strathmore wanted a council that was made up of entirely of retired people, who, you know, can do this, job, you know, part-time and, you know, like kind of as like almost like a volunteer thing, I believe they would have elected a council of retired or semi-retired people, and, the people of Strathmore, I believe, would like the best people for the job in this position. And I believe that in order to be the best that we can be, we need to feel like we're being backed up that way. And yeah, so yeah, I guess for the reasons I've outlined, that's my position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Mr. Thackeray, do you have a timeline when you might be able to come back with some more information regarding AMS? And
I'm not exactly sure, just because I don't know what the latest information
Okay.
is. But typically it does come out this time of year. At least I've received it, so I can inquire. But at least if you wanted to postpone this for a couple of weeks, that would be helpful.
Is council okay with a postponement of this for a couple of weeks? And I just wanted to also double check, council, are you in agreement maybe that we consider the idea of a deputy mayor increase as well as part of movement forward, part of the whole package? Okay.
Could I suggest we put this over to the next committee of the whole?
Sure, would that give you enough time, Mr. Thackeray? That would be a month.
We could figure, at least try and figure out some of
Okay.
the boundaries.
Councilor Montgomery, you okay with that?
Yeah, that's totally fine, yep.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to the end of 9.1, and just before we go to 9.2, Councillor Bauer?
May I make a motion to just take a short recess, please?
There's no motions. You're in committee.
Oh, right, I
Right.
forgot, my fault,
Okay.
that's my fault.
You'd like a comfort break?
Comfort break, please?
Are we okay with a quick few minute? Yeah, let's take a quick 3 or 4 minute comfort break,
Thank you.
and we'll come back to the last few items before we go in camera.
Credit Chartered Professional Development, that's what it is.
Okay, we're back in session in the Committee of the Whole meeting. And that brings us to item 9.2, the Youth Advisory Committee. And I believe that's administration is speaking to that. Mr. Thackeray, or is that Councillor Bauer? Are you speaking to that? Thank you.
Can I speak to this? I received an email from Cecilia Moore after a discussion with her about gathering some information about a youth advisory committee for the town of Strathmore. And this is something that I do not know whether or not it has been done before, where we have a youth advisory committee made up of members of youth from our schools or through an application process where they where council and the youth meet together to decide on how policies and decisions that we make as a council, for example, the recycling carts and other things that we are bringing in, new business ventures, even the ball diamonds, that we would have input from a youth advisory committee to guide us of what the youth in our community feel is good practice. And it got included in our agenda package, the emails and the City of Edmonton Youth Advisory Committee interview guide, which are things that the City of Calgary has used to help support this position. And I would like to just put it out to council that we discuss whether or not this is something that we would like to take upon ourselves, whether or not we would like the town administration to go forward and pursue this idea of having a youth advisory committee in our community. Thank you.
I looked down for a moment and it's like Christmas over on my left side. I don't know who's first.
Denise.
Councillor Peterson, questions or comments?
When we were campaigning in the last election, 4 of us were at Westmount School when we talked about this. And one of the formats that I've seen in small communities that work extraordinarily well is in consultation with the school divisions and the homeschoolers in the community, and having them build it into the curriculum where they already have it, and then they hold the town or the municipality sponsors youth forums twice a year, and the outcomes of the youth forums are presented to council twice a year. Takes it off the plate of administration, leaves it in the hands of youth and a broader perspective of community. And I think that they're well poised in this community because we already have people like Mrs. Birch at the high school doing fundraising through community efforts and community endeavors, and we have Michelle Berger's class doing very civic-minded things, and the grade 2s in Westmount participating widely in community-based activities, and I think every school has an elected council at every grade, and representatives that do political action within their schools. So I would love to draw on their expertise and support them in a forum way to bring it into council to tie the two together so that we don't add more to our plate, but we still get the benefit of their voice.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Corbeil.
Thank you, Your Worship. I actually have a question for Deputy Mayor Sobel. You guys were trying to get a criminal justice, like a youth committee? Youth justice? I've heard they're actually trying to bring that back. We just had it at the SWAT meeting or whatever. I don't know if that would tie together or not. Regardless, though, I think having a youth committee, I know I read in this package or whatever that they would, give support to SWAT. Huge thing. We've been looking for a student liaison since I've been there, and there's been nobody stepping up. So anything, that could help out committees that are already existing would be a huge benefit, and I would be all for it. And I love Councillor Peterson's idea on how to run it.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. Councillor Cox.
Hi. Thank you, Your Worship. I also want to bring in just another little factor as well, because I went through it, and they did used to have one at the high school, right? But it's been disbanded, is that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the SAY group. But I also, and I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor Peterson in the sense that the schools all have them, and what a great way. Is Miss Cecilia Moore willing to kind of guide this group? But also, my question for you, as you sit on the youth club group, there is also a leadership group that could be engulfed into this as well, because they also do fundraising 2 or 3 times a year and donate to worthy causes, and probably could use more direction and, even broaden their organization a little bit bigger. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Bauer?
I don't know if Cecilia is willing to head something like this. What she had come to me with was, this is an idea, my daughter, little Emma Moore, is very interested in something like this. And having had her in our council previously and seen what type of impact she made, just her little person on the community, I think that this person can really make a difference. And we can be selective in how we choose people. I think choosing people from the youth, Strathmore Youth Club would be a great benefit to the community as well as to us. We would have to set those parameters. So I think what I'm hearing is that you support this idea. It's just, how are we going to implement it, and how are we going to do this? Would it be better if we made a subcommittee to look at it, or I'd like direction.
Thank you, Councillor Bauer. Deputy Mayor Sobel.
I would just comment that, first of all, I support Councillor Peterson. I'm not sure that belongs in administration's preview or this council's preview. Strathmore Assembly for Youth worked so well because it was in the school and it was organized by the school. And I'm not sure how much everyone's familiar with certainly councillors who were there at the time are, but we had regular interaction with SAY. We had a councillor on the SAY program.
And they were here.
They came to we had a spot for them, actually. We still have a name plate for them. They sat in council meetings. The mayor would have regular meetings with them and discuss issues. So a lot of this existed, and the issue that took place was the organizers from the school were not able to continue with the program, and no one, they were unable to find anyone to take over the program. So that's one of the issues is organizing and facilitating the weekly or bi-weekly meetings, whatever they decide. But you just don't want to reinvent the wheel, and I think a lot of this stuff already exists in the school. So I would agree that I think that's where it belongs, and to find somebody in the school system that's willing to. It's a great idea. I love the concept. I was very, very disappointed and sad to see SAY leave us. I thought they did great work for the amount of time that, especially considering the short amount of time they were in existence. But it is, it's a lot of work, and we need probably somebody to step up from in the school system.
Councillor Peterson.
One of the best models I ever saw, and Pat might remember it, was when Dr. Gary McKinnon instituted a process throughout the entire Golden Hills where every school had, because it's already built into curriculum, then every school had representatives, and they had yearly forums multiple times a year. I think they started out with 4 and went down to 3. And these students from various classes would come together and under the direction of facilitators and narrow down their focus and their thoughts. And the incredible things that came out of that group from doing massive fundraisers that continue today, like the food drive that they do for the food bank every year, that are still sustainable. And I think that that's what sustains it. And I don't think it has to necessarily stop at schools. I hear what Terry's saying. I think, we could combine all those voices in the community and do it in such a way that it would really resonate. It wouldn't burn anybody out because we'd spread it across the board. And that sustainability factor is so important because when we lost Say, it was a big blow. And so I think building in a sustainability in schools are nothing if not sustainable, much more so than putting it in the purview of council and administration. I just think it would work. I've seen it work.
Thank you, Councillor Peterson. Councillor Bauer, as a go forward, do you see maybe a letter just to the high schools in town and maybe the junior highs in town, just asking them if they're interested in becoming involved in creating, I don't know, are you thinking of like a junior high and a high school one, two separate ones?
What I was envisioning was 12 members of the Youth Advisory Committee, maybe perhaps one representative from each of the junior highs, Holy Cross Collegiate and Crowther Memorial, and then 6 members from Strathmore High School and Holy Cross Collegiate from the grades 10, 11, and 12 as well. So yes, involving both school districts.
So as a move forward, then, do you think maybe a letter just gauging their interest and support might be a good start?
I think that's a really good idea.
Homeschool as well. Would council be comfortable if Councillor Bauer contacted the various schools to see, to gauge their interest? Would that be okay with you, Councillor Bauer?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay,
And that would take in.
perfect. Yeah, and when Say was operating, HCC and Strathmore High, they had really good representation, and they pulled off an incredible project with that 18-hole disc golf course. So it shows you what can be done if you have the right people working on it. And Jill McDonald was such a driving force behind that, so we appreciated all her efforts as well. So. Yes, political forums as well, that's right. Councillor Bauer, so we're going to leave that with you, and then maybe you can bring back a report if you've heard back from the various schools. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Thank you. That brings us to item 10, bylaws. I don't think we have anything in bylaws. Urgent business. I think we moved one to 12.1, questions between councillors and council statements, and I think that was that your ex-councillor Cox with the handicap parking spots?
It wasn't really for us, it was more for
Oh. So did you want to make it as a council statement? We don't have, I guess we have we don't normally have administrative inquiries in committee of the whole, do we?
Yeah.
We do?
they're right there, number 13.
Ryan, sorry. I gotta buy a round now, right? Oh,
Oh, okay.
Because I looked at the agenda, that's why I submitted it.
Okay, so anyways, I can make the comment and
Okay.
we can discuss it. And I've heard over and over and over for the, that we had to wait till the paint was able to be put on the ground. But I did notice that all of the stop signs have been put in, and the one handicap parking sign in front of Chinook Credit Union has been put in. But according to the map that I was given to show, there should be a handicap sign in front of Strathmore Valley Drug Mart, there should be one in front of the dentist office, and there should be one across the street from the Value Drug Mart, and there is none there.
Ryan, did you want to speak to those questions?
Your worship, I can speak to that real quick, sure.
Sure.
So with regards to that, we were, prescient that Councillor Cox mentioned that today, we were talking about that today. So operations is in the process of getting that set up. Yeah, we were just talking to Craig about that this morning. As well, and I'm probably stealing some of Jim's thunder from the department update, but what admin will be doing is for the June 6th meeting, we'll be bringing a sort of comprehensive plan of all of the downtown core, so sort of from 1st to 4th all the way out from Lakeside to Wheatland Trail. showing where all of the handicapped parking areas are, where all the ramps are, just to give council that full idea, both where they are now and then where they're planned to be. So we will have the signs dealt with pretty quick, but as well for the 6th there, Mustafa is here, not here, he doesn't get to hear this. Mustafa will be presenting a sort of a comprehensive plan of all of the handicapped and accessible areas, as well as the places where we intend to put the seniors access signage, or the sort of seniors preferred signage.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so just to give council a whole big picture of the whole downtown core.
So, but we're getting some of these handicap signs up.
Your worship, absolutely.
I don't care about the paint on the ground, I just want them to have their signs, because they're very particular.
No, Your worship, we
Okay.
made that clear this morning to ops.
Thank you, Ryan, very much. Jim, did you want to step forward and say a couple of things?
Can I just add to that?
Sorry.
I've been working with Craig on this, and when did you last check? Because they put some signs up yesterday, and they were supposed to put, not all of them, but most of them up today as well?
So this morning when I went to work, there was none, but then today when I came here, for 6 something, there is one sign, handicap sign on Main Street, or Second Ave, right in front of the Chinook Credit Union. That's the only one.
I think that the signs may not be up, but I think they've got the pedestals put into the concrete, ready to put a pole and a sign
And the
up. But
paint on the ground.
I'm not trying to make an excuse.
No.
I
There
think
was
there
lots
is
of
a-
stop signs put up since, but
Yeah.
no handicap parking.
The handicap, there is confusion with the handicap, I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
We have parking stalls with no ramps.
Yes,
Uh,
which are supposed to be
we-
corrected.
We've been told that there's stalls that were for or that are indicated for handicap and they're not. And, so we decided as Brian said, that we want to put together a comprehensive plan. And we'll bring it on the 6th. You can tell us what you think of it, what we might need to change, but we want to get it done, we want to get it done right.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to do it again. We've missed some things already.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson?
Comments?
Yes.
I just want to acknowledge Mayor Fuel and Councillor Francis Wolfleg, who both spoke at the powwow on Saturday, at the graduation powwow at the high school. And the comments after Mayor Fuel spoke were hugely encouraging. And after he spoke, it was a rare occasion. Francis Wolfleg, who held the microphone, said he invited everybody, the non-Indigenous graduates, to dance with everybody else, and he made a point of talking about it to do this in the spirit of reconciliation. And I just wanted to mention that the flame and the logo of the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, represents the fire of reconciliation that most people in Canada, I think, agree that has been lit. And it's a common language, a common pedagogy, particularly among Indigenous people who are hopeful about this new day. And today there was a Mother's Day tea, and one of the grandmas said to me, "Wow, your mayor brought a pretty big stick to that fire." So thank you. It's recognized and it was noticed, and your heart truly came through. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up, I just got an email from Wheatland Elementary School. They are asking support of any counselor or anyone from staff and administration who would like to come and flip pancakes on Friday, May the 25th, as they are having a Western Day extravaganza. May 25th, Friday in the morning. They need people to flip pancakes and pour syrup. And they said there will be pancakes, fry bread, Harry the horse,
A small petting zoo.
a small petting zoo, dancers from Siksika, the Calgary Stampede princesses, Queen and Princesses, and the Indigenous Princess. Yeah, it looks like a good day. So if anybody can do that, you could let Mel know, I'm sure, and
Councillor Peterson, do you have a time for that? Is it regular school time? 9?
I think it's 9 to 1. I think they want pancake flippers there at 8:30 or something, but,
I'm not sure.
yeah.
Thank
But
you.
I'm sure Mel is connected to that and to that school, and probably if we let her know if we can make it, that'd be great. But it looks like they're really up for the extravaganza.
Thank you, and thank you for the kind words, Councillor Peterson, and for being there that night when I was dancing badly in the round dance. Buck Breaker and I were together for a bit, and you might have seen the photo, but he's very excited about the moves they're making as far as their financials, and they've purchased some hotels in Kelowna. They have other ideas. He's very excited about working with the town on some things, and so he wanted to continue the dialogue and keep meeting. So I was very impressed with that too. Again, this is a good time to thank all of you councillors for all the time you put in on the various committees and the events that you're able to get to. I'm sometimes left speechless by the fact that so many of us are able to get to some of these things and go down the water slide, and when you know I'm terrified to do that. Okay, are there any other comments or questions between councillors, council statements, administrative inquiries? Do we have, we have a couple, I think, don't we, Deborah? Thank you.
Yes, Your Worship, we have 3 from Councillor Peterson. The first one is, the background is in the early 2000s, Al Bertram sold the land south of the golf course and the approximate 48 acres south of Pond 1 to Douglas Homes, which became West Creek. At a public meeting in the community center in approximately 2003, West Creek apparently expressed willingness to trade the town the 48 acres for the land south of the golf course. It was perhaps West Creek's intention to drain the wetlands south of the golf course into Pond 1 and then develop to the south of the golf course. Councillor Peterson's question is whether or not an agreement actually exists for the town to own the 48 acres south of Pond 1. Second inquiry is for Lakewood Meadows. Lakewood Meadows, in the developer's agreement, in her understanding that Lee Maher agreed that the 40-acre storm pond, formerly the town reservoir, was to remain in the possession of the town of Strathmore. The question is, does the town of Strathmore own that 40-acre storm pond? Inquiry 3, it's Councillor Peterson's understanding that all the facts for Phase 13 in Strathmore Lakes Estate have been signed, but the caveats remain. She has been asked by the developer to inquire if action is being undertaken to remove the town-held caveats.
I can answer that right away. That third one? Yes, yes, Your Worship. With regards to that, red on my face, we signed all the caveat agreements and I forgot to seal it properly. So they got bounced, so I just have to re-sign it all and send it in. Yeah, that's just red on staff's face there. I signed it in a hurry.
Thank you, Ryan, for that clarification. So we have those 2 inquiries then that are still left to be dealt with. Thank you for that, Councillor Peterson. And that brings us to in camera. We have a motion. We need a motion to come, sorry, Jim?
Well, I was told I was to make a report.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, I didn't see that.
This entire time waiting.
Yeah, I apologize.
That's fine.
Yeah, I didn't see that. Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Okay, I will try to get through this as quickly as possible. I know it's getting late and you've got some other business to do, but the first item is waste management. I'm happy to report that we have waste management signed up, and they will be helping us, they'll be assembling and delivering the carts somewhere between roughly the 22nd and June 2nd. Sorry.
No, it doesn't.
Sorry, go ahead.
We are meeting tomorrow to deal with the logistics of the assembly and delivery of the green carts. We're working very closely, obviously, with waste management, our staff, in particular the seasonal workers will be, putting stickers on the carts, putting stickers on the kitchen catchers, putting your one bag in the kitchen catcher, putting the kitchen catcher into the cart that's assembled by waste management, and then off, starting to deliver them. So we're meeting tomorrow morning to sort of deal with the logistics of that. I feel very comfortable at this point that things are going quite well, so I'm probably cursing myself for saying that, but I know street sweeping is dear to your hearts as well. The new Elgin sweeper was not working properly. In fact, it was, we ended up taking it into Calgary around 4:30 today, and the company that's fixing it under warranty, they have a grave shift and they have mechanics coming on at 3 in the morning. They're going to be repairing it starting at 3, and hopefully we're supposed to have it back tomorrow. We will then be running the street sweeper, that particular street sweeper, 14, 16 hours a day. We're going to do shifts, and we're going to get it done as quickly as possible. And yes, I know it looks like we went over some of the streets and stuff was dropped or missed or whatever. It looks like it was missed. It was faulty equipment. We were doing the best we can with what we had until we could get it in to get it fixed. The old sweeper, the engine died. Very simply, it died on us. It's been taken into Calgary as well to sort of get a analysis of what it needs to be, what can be done to fix it, whether it's worth even fixing. And if we can get it fixed and back out to us, we plan on working it for about 8 hours a day as well. So I know you'd like the streets cleaned as quickly as possible. I think our staff is trying to do that. And like I say, running it 14 to 16 hours, I think that tells you that we're giving it. Just be patient.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I
Oh,
was,
I'm sorry.
and I think we're gonna ask the same ones. Go ahead.
Oh, my question was related to, I know there was mention that maybe some signage had been misplaced. And one of the questions I had relevant to that, I came out of my house early Monday morning to go to a meeting and got accosted by really distressed parents. Generally, when they clean in front of the Sacred Heart Holy Cross Collegiate School, Catholic school, they recognize that the elementary students are on the west side, and they don't clean between 8:30 and 4:30 because they recognize that that's where the little ones know where they're dropped off and where they're picked up by their parents. So it did create a great hardship for them.
Okay. I will pass that on to make sure that.
Councillor Cox, did you want to add anything?
Yes, Your Worship. I also, and I believe Councillor Montgomery, did you make the inquiry as well about why you can't run while businesses are not open? So now I hear you're doing the 16 hours and stuff like that per day, but I really strongly think that we need to make sure that our businesses are not losing parking
Yes.
because of the street cleaning.
And
So
I-
can it be before 8 o'clock in the morning or after 5 o'clock in the evening? However we have to work that, can we not make sure that happens?
Yes, we apologize. We knew that. The people that were out on the street shouldn't have been doing what they did, and we're aware of that, and I'm told that won't happen again. So my apologies on behalf of our staff. Okay, the Parks Seasonal 2018 shift schedule. I think I know Craig has really done a lot of good work, and he's really trying to become more efficient and more effective for everybody and, for the town. He's, as you know, we end up with about 18 seasonal workers. And what he's done now is there's going to be 5 seasonal workers working from Sunday to Tuesday, or Thursday, 5 seasonal workers working from Tuesday to Saturday, and 10 seasonal workers working Monday to Friday. So we're going to have 5 people working all the time, well, not 24 hours, but working the weekends. And that will help pick up the garbage, help with functions, whatever they need to be doing. So I think that was a very good move, and I really congratulate Craig for doing that. So there'll be a lead hand and then 4 seasonal workers, so there'll always be a lead hand with our crews, and there'd be four crews during the week. I want to just mention very quickly a new radio tower. Our people have been approached by a radio station interested in locating a tower in Strathmore. They are in the process of meeting with these people and researching and finding out what we can do, how we can benefit them and benefit the town. So it's very preliminary at this stage. So we'll keep you abreast on that one. Westmount Reservoir decommissioning. I have been told by Mark the reservoir will be drained by May 18th, and the decommissioning is going very well. So we're hoping to get that wrapped up in the next few weeks. Glenwood deep water and sewer upgrades. They're scheduled to start May 14th, basically a 4-week schedule for phase 1. Line painting, contract was awarded with a mid-May start date, and I'm told that it only takes 2 days to do all our line painting that we have scheduled. Kinsman Storm Pond, that's pond number 3. We're in.
Wait, Jim, if I could.
Yeah, sure.
I think there was a problem last year with like the lines not being painted, maybe to a really high quality, you know, in terms of like kind of alignment. Can we ensure that that the lines are going to be?
We're not talking about the quality of the paint or anything. We're
No,
talking
I mean
about
like, you know, you
how
look down the
straight
road
they are.
and you see one go this way, one go that way, you know, like so
They weren't
they're-
straight.
You like straight, yeah, like well yeah, like you know, it's from block to block they're not in alignment, or you know, even like the block itself isn't straight, or so.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Montgomery. Jim, could I ask a question too, just before you move on from line painting? Does that line painting contract also entail improving the ones on Second Avenue that needed to be changed from last year's renovation?
Yes. Yeah, I believe so. There's going to be an. there's
Or is
going
that a
to be
separate- is that-
I'm not sure it's the same.
Yeah, it's still tied into the previous
Yes.
construction project
Yes.
there.
Yeah,
And that's going to be happening fairly soon too?
Your Worship, with regards to the paint on that, yeah, that's part of the things we were discussing with ops this morning was cutting in the new drop-ins for handicap spots and getting the paint outlet, but that's a separate.
And you have to grind out the old lines that were incorrect and then redo them?
Your Worship, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's, as I say, that's a separate sort of contract there.
Okay, thank you.
Kinsman Storm Pond number 3, relocating the fountain. We are waiting test results before determining our options for dredging that pond. We did do some tests. We were concerned about the results of the tests, that maybe the testing wasn't done properly, so we're redoing the testing and waiting for the final results. So that will be, we'll keep you updated on that as well. Pardon me? Where?
Oh, you're testing chemicals.
Yes, yeah, for, you know, what's in the water, in the soil, et cetera, yeah. Because we gotta know what's in there before we can dispose of the dredging, right? Yeah. Highway 1 beautification, we do, as you know, we have 10 planters that we're working on with Alberta Transportation. We can't just go out there and plunk them on Highway 1. We need Alberta Transportation's approval. They are somewhat demanding, but we're working through it, and hopefully we'll have that approval within the next week or two.
And are we going with live or artificial plants in those planters?
My understanding, we're going live.
Live.
Yeah. So they'll be removed in the winter, before the winter hits, and then we'll have to put them back again. But it's giving us a chance, like right now with 10 of them, to see how it's working. And then next year, hopefully, our plans are to increase that and, you know, sort of add to the beautification as you're going through Strathmore. But if we can get through Alberta Transportation this year, I think it'll be a lot easier to put forward our plans for next year. But we'll, again, keep you posted on that as well.
Councillor Peterson?
When we're talking about coming into town, when we initially did when we okayed that little trailer park on the west side of town, just, you know, where they're putting the trailer, there was some agreement that, I thought, that they were going to put some kind of a barrier there. That was my understanding.
The illegal one?
Yeah, Four Amigos or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
On their property, sorry.
Yeah, well, my understanding was that they were going to put some kind of a barrier in there, but I might be wrong.
Boy,
Anyway.
that's a tough one.
We should check it out.
Your worship, I can take a look at the permits on that and see, I'm not familiar with it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Third Avenue revitalization kickoff. The tenders are closing on May 11th. We're anticipating construction starting June 1st to the 15th, depending on how things go. Gives you a bit of an idea where we're at with that. And as I mentioned earlier, or Ryan mentioned earlier, we are coming back on the June 6th to talk about ramps and handicap parking, et cetera. Marijuana regulation, open house, whatever you want to call it. I think everyone's aware of that. Public evening open house with council is May 24th. And where's that at? Civic Center, right, yes. There'll be some more, you know, you'll be getting some information with the details, times and all that. Yeah. Okay, building permits issued in April. There was 19 permits issued, a total construction value of 2.35 million. 58 permits total to date, totaling 7.5 million in construction value. Some of the larger developments, new car wash, 2 churches, additional Southside Station review, UFA, Core Ag, and a cart club. Subdivisions under consideration for Wildflower Golf Course, Strathmore Lakes Estates, North Hill Heights, Canal Boulevard, and Southside Station. And the last item I have is the EPCOR contract renewal. Just wanted to give you a heads up that council members will be receiving a survey probably near the end of this week, hopefully by Friday. We're just wanting to gather some feedback from council with regards to your expectations, any comments you want to make about the EPCOR service and contract. So I think there's about 7 questions. Hopefully it won't take you too long to fill it out and get it back to us. And your worship, that is my report for today.
Thank you very much. So that's the report. Trent, sorry. Thank you.
Can I just ask for clarification? What time does the event on the 24th begin?
Yeah.
Well, we had discussed it, but they hadn't set a date yet. Yeah, I think so. I think we have to come out of committee of the whole to make a motion to extend.
Yes.
So I'm looking for a motion to come out of in camera just for a
Could
minute.
I just, your worship, could I answer that?
Sure.
It's May 24th, Thursday, May 24th, the Civic Center, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., East Hall.
Okay, thank you.
We're in committee of the whole, so we can't have a motion to extend our meeting unless we come out of committee of the whole. So I'm looking for a motion to come out of committee of the whole.
I will so move, your worship.
You've all heard the motion. All in favor? And then we need a motion to extend the meeting.
I will move that we extend the meeting to 10:30, 1 hour.
Thank you. You've all heard the motion. We have an extension up to 1 hour to 10:30. All in favor? And then a motion?
I move to go into committee of the whole.
Thank you. You've heard the motion to go back into committee of the whole. All in favor? Thank you. I know. And Mr. West, your presentation.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. I'm not sure what this means, but Tracy sent me some information that she asked me to pass along and quickly reminded me that I only have 5 minutes. So I think I might talk a lot, I guess. Anyway, saying that, updates with regard to the youth club. The after-school care program, or the ABC program, will be the first program to be audited this year. We're using a third-party firm to do the assessment, and this will be our first step in getting this program aligned with the provincial legislation for after-school care, with the hopes of becoming a licensed program, which comes with funding from the province. The youth mentorship, a group of youth from the club will be working with some locals engaged in car derbies to learn about car maintenance and building. They'll be working on rebuilding cars together in a safe, hands-on, engaging environment. The youth will gain increased connections with the community, personal and emotional skills development, and a better understanding of community service. FCSS, that's the youth club. FCSS, Rural Homeless Estimation Project. FCSS has applied for funding through the Government of Canada's Homeless Partnering Strategies Innovation Solutions through the Alberta Rural Development Network. See, that's why we have acronyms in the fire service. That would have been way quicker. If the funds come through, we'll look at a number of exercises, including tracking progress in reducing homelessness, improving homelessness, and housing agencies planning programs, helping to secure funding to improve resources to help homeless residents. Improving demographic information to identify where community resources are most needed. Next project is Rural South Central Alberta Regional Inclusion Coalition. And in this program, Linda's actively engaged in this group, taking lead to help build the platform to advocate for sharing of skills, expertise, experience, and studies in the region. The idea and vision is to work together to create more welcoming and inclusive communities in the region. 211 service. With this project, Linda is actively working with the Distress Center to look at the feasibility of bringing 211 phone services to the Strathmore area. If successful, this service will provide a free phone-in service for those in need of social services to the Strathmore area. If successful, this service will provide a free phone-in service. Twice I tried to give away free phones. Free phone-in service for those in need of social and financial assistance. It is an information and referral service that connects people to thousands of community, government, and social services. And it's a free and confidential service. Lastly, from FCSS is the Home Support Program. And council will be receiving more information on the Home Support Program with a policy for consideration in June. From Recreation, Let's Get Wrecked is happening starting in June 2nd with the ball hockey and registration beginning on Friday. June 9th is the WDHS walking tour. June 10th is bocce ball. Registration is open now for bocce ball. June 16th is yoga in the park. And June 15th is art in the park. Mention about the night market. The first night market was yesterday. Thank you for those councillors that were able to attend and participate. Was focused. Next night market is scheduled for June 21st. The Aquatic Center. Here are some of the positive comments they've received at the Aquatic Center from patrons about the new steam and sauna. A patron came in and told him that it was one of the most authentic steam saunas he had ever been in. Another patron said they just thought they'd like to let the Aquasize, or thought that the Aquasize ladies absolutely love the steam room. They said that they really appreciate how clean it is and also how well worth and how much it was worth the wait. People are raving about the steam room in the morning. They say they love it and it was definitely worth the wait. And they've also received compliments about how nice the sitting and shower areas are. So lots of compliments coming in about the new steam room and the spa, and we don't have to comment on the water slide. It was on the front page of the paper, so we're good with that. Yeah. Acting out. Field house, posting for the new positions in the field house will be happening shortly. And a fee structure, such as the user fees, rental fees, will be forthcoming. As far as grants are concerned, Lauren is working with FCSS on the New Horizons for Seniors program. The program provides funding for projects that encourage seniors to play an important role in for them to play. I like that. Okay. For them to play an important role in their communities by volunteering, participating in, and leading community activities. I did read this before I actually came up here. The program also provides funds to help organizations make necessary modifications or repairs to their existing facilities, or to purchase and replace equipment or furnishings. As long as they're playing. The happy gang. Yeah. With regard to protective services, we are on pace for over 300 calls this year. Staff have we have completed 2 fire extinguisher training programs for staff in town, and look forward to doing more of that. Our posting for our firefighter position is out and closes this Friday. We're looking to do interviews next week, and looking forward to having a firefighter on board by early in June so that they're settled in good for the summer. Maintenance, as far as the vehicles are concerned, we got smacked pretty hard. There's a requirement for tires on vehicles to be replaced after 10 years, no matter what, and was not anticipated. So that was a big expense. Even our ladder truck, which is not 10 years old, is built on a chassis that is 10 years old. So I think we've replaced almost every set of tires that we have in the fleet. One of the things that we're looking at doing, and we're doing some fact finding right now. We've spoke to a few of our partners, and we're looking at doing a youth summer camp down at the fire hall, involving municipal enforcement, doing some water safety and education. So involving a number of the departments of the organization in a summer camp, and we're just doing some fact finding right now, but it looks very promising. So more to come on the youth summer camp. Emergency management, I'd really like to throw a big shout out to Lauren, of course, for involving us in the first night market of the season. Also Catherine for all of the work that she did beforehand as well as last night and going forward, because we handed out the sheets asking people to sign up for Strathmore alerts or scans, and her name was on every one of those sheets. So, and I'll give you a little bit of an update on scans in a second. And also the participation from the region. We had county fire, county constables, county police, as well as RCMP Victim Services, both fire departments. It was just a search and rescue, Badlands search and rescue. We had the technical rescue cadaver dogs that were out and doing their demonstration as part of our search and rescue roles and responsibilities. It just was a really, really good night. We estimate that there was over 200 people for sure that came through the area, and And as far as the Strathmore alerts or scans, yesterday before we went into the evening, we had 34 people, some residents, mostly staff. And by 3 o'clock today, we were just shy of 80. So for a soft launch and sending people home to register, we've over doubled our numbers. So that's really, really good, and we're pretty excited about that. And with regard to that, now we become very aggressive in the papers, in our social media, and our conversations outbound to the public about connecting to the Town of Strathmore webpage, quick links, going to Strathmore alerts, and getting more information. So very aggressive with that.
Deputy Mayor Silva?
Thanks. Trent, can we put that on our news thing on the webpage too? It's not hard to find, but you have to go searching for it to find it.
Yeah.
And it'd be nice if we could link that in with the, I think that's where most people will first look, is on news.
Okay. Thank you. Got it. Quickly, staff. So last night, for people that were registering or have registered and then notified us, we drew for 5 72-hour emergency kits. We drew for 2 pet kits. And with the interactive display that the fire department was doing, they drew for a second-story rescue ladder. And so those people have all been notified. Most of them have already been picked up. So so that was good. Municipal enforcement, of course, we're into the typical spring concerns, comments, and complaints that we receive at this time of year. People that haven't yet got out to start cleaning their yards, that kind of thing. So we're actively addressing those concerns and complaints as they come in the door. And that's my report.
Thank you, Trent. Any other questions, comments? Jim, I want to thank you for not naming the cannabis open house Let's Get Wrecked. That would have been bad. I know, it was low-hanging fruit. So I think that's it for the reports. Is there anything else from admin? Looking for a motion to come out of in camera, or out of committee of the whole?
I move.
You've heard the motion to come out of committee of the whole. All in favor? And so we're back in the public. We need a motion to go in camera.
Before we do that,
Oh.
Your Worship, can we have a motion
The things.
That's right.
Town council strategic.
The strategic, priorities.
Well, we don't have to ride anymore.
We're out of committee of the whole, so we can have a motion regarding 6.1 now. Councillor Corbeil.
I move we accept the Town of Strathmore Council Strategic Priorities 2018 to 2021 as presented.
Thank you, Councillor Corbeil. You've all heard the motion. All in favor? Motion is carried. Councillor Corbeil.
I move we go into camera.
Thank you. We have a motion to go in camera. All in favor? And we're going in camera at 9:42.